Regulation 389, LCB file R083-10. Go ahead, Rob.
Again, for the record, Rob Buonamici, Chief Game Warden. CGR 389 is designed to address the tampering, obstructing, destruction of guzzlers and water developments designed for wildlife. Yesterday, there was a lot of good discussion on alternative language, so forth. I believe when we look at all the proposed amendments that were set forth yesterday, it's pushing the limits of substantive changes with LCB, that they would relook at it again. So our recommendation is that we gather all the recommended changes here, try and incorporate them into a newly worded regulation and bring it back to the commission.
Did you get some of the wording like obstruction or contaminate and stuff like that? Did you get those?
Yeah, what I captured yesterday, and correct me if I'm wrong, is under 1A, obstruct and add or contaminate. And then under 1B, in any other manner, scratch, interfere, and change that to alter.
And we had there or other wildlife water development.
I didn't get that.
Insert wildlife.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And then in section 2, where we identify employer, agent of the department, and insert or land management agency. And then in section 3, we're looking at the term in the last sentence there, water, changing that to precipitation.
And then you're gonna rewrite it and get it to the land management agencies, the other ones,
Correct.
and for their input, and bring it back to the commission as soon as possible.
Correct.
Because I think it's a important piece of legislation, or not legislation, but an important regulation, so we'd like to get it back as soon as possible, and with the other land management agencies. Commissioner Cavan?
We discussed a couple other.
Yes.
In 3, where it's in quotes, it says guzzler or other. And I think we inserted wildlife water development there. Was one of our. And then in the next line, starts off enhanced natural basin that collects or is designed, and we inserted and constructed. And we changed water to precipitation.
Yeah, he got that.
I'm not sure if that's exactly what we want, but that
Well, those are the ideas
those are
that they can take back. Commissioner Rain?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And also, everywhere where it says water development, not only in section 3, but there's a couple places above would all say wildlife water development. And the one change there that I think might be a bad change is replacing interfere with alter, because interfere with implies a negative change. Alter does not necessarily imply a negative change. It could be making it better. And I think the general implication of this is if somebody makes it worse, somebody shows up and makes it better, and interfere with shows the intent of making it worse. Alter, they might put in a new tube, a new hose. That's altering without permission.
We can look at that language. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the concern yesterday was interfere could potentially affect hunting blinds. And we wanted to, that's not what we were after.
Destroy,
So,
something.
just so I understand the intent. You got
I'd like
the
some
intent
word
right.
that has a
We can
negative
get the
implication as opposed to alter, which could be positive construction.
Why don't you just hang in there and let's open up public comment, see what they have in case we want to get anything else. Any public comment on this proposed regulation? If not, come on.
We had we had, Rick and Paul, once again, they both had this, but I don't know if it was this part of it.
Rick Smith, Washoe Cab. It was brought to my attention after our meeting yesterday, something we should consider, and I don't know this for sure, so I'm just throwing it out as kind of a thing, is if we add precipitation, there are some guzzlers, I've been told that, like as an example in the Mormon Mountains, that it's not just collecting precipitation, that there's actually fed from a spring with the float, and when the guzzler is full, then the float comes on and it goes, diverts it back to the spring. And so that's not precipitation. So that's something that really needs to be looked at, because that would basically, if it just says precipitation, it would exempt those guzzlers. So, and in question to yours, as far as alter, the intention is interfere. That was our suggestion to change it to alter, is if they are going to do something to the guzzler to divert the water or to do something to benefit, and specifically a blind or something, so that they take it away from the intent of what the guzzler is for their benefit. So, I mean, anybody that alters for an improvement, I don't think anybody's ever gonna, you know, go after them or ticket them or what have you, but
Where did you hear about this guzzler that captures spring water?
it was just part of the discussion out here that that some of the guys said, I think there's some guzzlers that are not just precipitation, and I don't know that, so that's why I just thought.
Rick, you know, that was my concern when I brought up Big Bertha, which is in the Mormons, because, and Little Devil, I thought there were some guzzlers that took surface water. They didn't all collect precipitation, but then the testimony here said they're all precipitation, but I thought there were some out there that collected surface water, but I could be wrong.
Well, and I could do, so I just thought we'd
and
bring
that's
it up.
where that's where I was coming from, and but the testimony showed that most of them were precipitation, so I'm not sure. Let me talk to Commissioner Burrow first.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, that goes back to the question I brought up yesterday, and that has to do with the water right issue, I would think, Dag Stockton, because if that water is appropriated from that spring, then you can't divert it to something else without permission or without some sort of agreement.
And that's my other client, so if the water right holder complains about a guzzler diverting spring water, then yeah, we could have some problems.
Let's go to Director Mayer.
Well, I was just going to say that it's either mechanically derived or it's precipitation derived, whether it's a spring or not. Spring is not created by manually pumping water from an aquifer. So, you know, I think that our wardens understand that if we had a spring, if we don't have a water right, we shouldn't be doing it, number one. And so I feel pretty confident the water crew does have water rights where we need to have water rights. So, I don't know, we might be splitting hairs.
Yeah, I agree.
But the word precipitation might not apply here.
It would apply to everything except what you pump out of the ground,
Right.
vis-a-vis a landowner creating water for his water trough.
Well, that was my concern too, because I thought there were other ones where we collected surface water. Okay, thank you.
Paul Dixon, Clark County. A question I have maybe for Rob or Ken or maybe you guys is, when we had originally had these discussions, we talked about altering the landscape around the guzzler to, you know, like by cutting down pinyon or juniper or sage and building blinds and stuff, and altering what were natural pathways for animals to get into the guzzler, i.e. cover or other things. How is that actually covered in this, what we're talking about right now? I guess I'm a little unclear with that.
The intent of this regulation is not to address those other issues that were brought up during the entire camera blind discussion. This is one of the outcomes of those discussions, but this is not intended to address those as separate regulations for those.
They're on the books now?
That are not on the books, but we're developing.
Okay, thank you.
Did you get those changes or ideas that we had,
Yeah,
or the concerns?
on 1B, this might solve the issue. If it's worded in any other manner, interfere with the function of a guzzler or water development, insert the word function. And that way a blind isn't interfering with the function of it.
Well, I'm gonna just, table this and for you to, come up with a new regulation and get it out to the other agencies and bring it back to us as soon as possible.
Okay.
With the information that we gave you, is that okay?
Yep,
Got
perfectly
my book?
acceptable.
Got my book, my regulation, I might need that.
$5.
I paid my $5 for that. Huh?
You get it free on
Free on the computer, but I don't know how to work the computer that good. Okay, thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Any other direction?